Oh, hello, hello. And yes, I am back alive again. It seems like, oh, gee, did I even leave? Time goes by so fast. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today. I'm just checking, as always, that, oh, yes, it seems like I'm live. Let's double check here that I should be live on the Janome. Yes, the Janome Sewing Machines Facebook page. That's Janome America, as well as I'm streaming live to our Janome Canada Facebook page, Janome America's YouTube channel, and our Janome Canada YouTube channel, formerly known as Janome HQ, standing for Janome headquarters. We've now renamed that YouTube channel Janome Canada, so it'll be a little easier for you all to find those videos and check out more ways to share the Janome love. So, oh, lovely. My sister Deb is here right away. Hello. It is so great to see you all. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today. My name is Michael Smith. I'm the National Education Manager of Janome Canada, and back here from my palatial estate. We got more snow, but at least it's sunny out today. Yes, I'm about 2 hours north of Collingwood, or 2 hours north of Toronto in Collingwood, Ontario. So again, winter, just kind of lingers, but I always say no matter what the weather, just stay inside and sew. So yes, oh, Julie's from Florida. Oh, how lovely. Hopefully it's getting warmer there too. Oh, Mary Ellis from Delaware. Oh, lovely. Hello. Yes, it is so great to see everybody. Thank you so much for always chiming in. I love to see we got quite an international audience here. So it's great to see where everybody is coming from. So yes, what are we going to talk about today? Well, if you were with me yesterday, I talked about ruler quilting, how fun it was to do any of our quilting with rulers and templates, either straight lines or again these shapes that we can do all of our quilting that way. So that's a fun, definitely a new way of quilting for many of us to explore the worlds of ruler quilting. So we've done many presentations. Go back to review. Today I've got something very cool to show you all, more quilting techniques, because March is National Quilting Month. So let's flip around. As always, time will fly by way too fast. And then here we are again on my beautiful Skyline S7 AE Anniversary Edition. But the techniques that I'm going to show you today can be done on so many Janome machines. Now, this cute little pin cushion, you may remember, I did a few weeks ago, and I totally love. I've seen the pin cushions now in a couple of Janome groups where you're all making your own pin cushions. So I love seeing that. So yes, this was a free project on the Inspire tab of Janome.com and Janome.ca. The fabulous Miriam Coffey from Janome America created it originally with these elastic straps around so it could go around your machine, this cute little pin cushion. It's called the Continental pin cushion, but it could be for any machine. I made this cute one for spring, happy spring, with the little decorative stitches. A great way to use decorative stitches in your machine. And again, could even color coordinate with your machine. I did a blue one here for my Skyline S7 AE with that midnight blue accent using the utility stitches of my machine. This is again another presentation I did all about these utility stitches. You can go back to review here on the respective YouTube channels and the respective Facebook pages. These little pin cushions get so addictive. And now you can make this cute little continental pin cushion with this Hand Look Quilt Stitch. That's what we're going to talk about today. This Hand Look Quilt Stitch. Isn't that adorable? And again, you could quilt an entire quilt with this Hand Look Quilt Stitch, but I'd say do it smaller projects so you get more instant gratification that way. This is another pin cushion I made many, many years ago. This was actually done on the 6650, a machine that has been retired many years ago. But again, this Hand Look Quilt Stitch is on a number of Janome machines. You may not even know that you have it. Here's another good use, again, smaller project. So cute little pin cushion, Again, this is called the Continental Pincushion. It's in the Inspire tab of Janome.com and Janome.ca. And I chose to, again, decorate my fabric with this Hand Look Quilt Stitch. Again, these little zippy pouches, oh, they get so addictive. But look at this beautiful, ooh, metallic thread. Yes, great time to use some. And you may be wondering, wow, that looks like really thick thread. Well, that's part of the secret. It's really not that thick thread. It's the stitch. It goes back and forth a couple of times. So again, these cute little zippy pouches, you can have so much fun doing this Hand Look Quilt Stitch. So, as always, the machine setup is very important. So, we will go to our machine here. This is, again, Skyline S7 AE Anniversary Edition. So depending on your model, you can either look in your LCD screen, you look across your stitches here, or, you double check your instruction manual and they have the stitches built in. In the back of the manual, they often have all of these stitches in the back of the manual. So then you can easily find, let me flip to the back of my manual. You can easily find all your stitches. So do you have a stitch? You maybe saw my Janome Life blog this morning. There we go. In this case, this is Skyline S7 AE. It's in the quilting category. And in this case, it's stitch number 4. On the photo I had on my Janome Life blog this morning that advertised this live, I used the stitch chart of the 6700. So again, a number of machines have this Hand Look Quilt Stitch. It's either in the quilting category. It's also known as a sculpture stitch. So it could be in that category, depending on your machine, or it could even be in your utility stitches. Maybe it's in on the faceplate of your machine. If you have like the QDC machines, like 3160, for example, they have all the stitches on the housing of the machine. So just look for this stitch. It's a triple stitch. There's 3 lines in a row here, 3 parallel lines. So it goes back and forth, and then it jumps 1 stitch. Then it goes back and forth, and then it jumps 1 stitch. So that is stitch number 4. That's our dedicated Hand Look Quilt Stitch that I'm going to focus on today, but there's actually a couple of more. Again, sculpture stitches or hand look quilting. If you have a machine like Skyline S7 here, again, we have our sewing applications menu. So we can find our Hand Look Quilt Stitch there too. So if you have a regular machine, not sewing applications, not that little t-shirt icon, again, you just scroll through, or I know that it's in my quilting categories. Here I touch my little quilting icon within quilting, and then boom, stitch number 4. It's that triple stitch, forward, back and forth, 1 stitch in between, then back and forth. So what you do, of course, is you make all these little samples. And I love, just with green painter's tape here, I wrote down, again, I did my stitch at 5.0 stitch length, and it's stitch number 4. So I can select stitch number 4. Now my default stitch length is 2.5, but by increasing your stitch length, you're really going to see more of that effect of where it really looks like a hand picked stitch, as if you had a hand sewing needle and you went, down through the layers of the fabric and then up through, and that's like our hand, quilting stitch, back and forth and up and down. By having a little bit more space in between, and you see the white there of my felt in between. So by lengthening your stitch length, you see more effect of that true Hand Look Quilt Stitch. So there are some other stitches that are similar. Again, stitch number 5, they're all at 5.0 stitch length, but again, slightly different. It's very similar, but slightly different. So that's the fun thing. This is stitch number 7, still at that 5-point stitch length. And again, you see a little bit more of like a little extra stitch there. So any of these would be fine. The one that I really love, this is again that stitch number 4, is that true triple stitch and then 1 stitch in between. So you do your little samples here, and then you'll see the LCD screen recommends the F foot is the satin stitch foot that has the groove on the back side for, again, our decorative stitches to pass through very easily. This is the F2 foot, is the open toe satin stitch foot. There's a little tick mark there for center needle position, and there's no bar across this foot. I can see my needle more readily here with the open toe one. So you could use either foot. I'll just go with my F2, which is on my machine. And the cool thing to make this a true hand look quilt stitch, not only should we lengthen the stitch length, but let's go into the adjust key here and our tension. That's another key part of the recipe. This stitch on its own is fine, but to really make that significant hand look stitch where, oh, I've got this gap in between here. Do you see there's my thread and then there's a gap and thread? So it really looks like a hand quilt stitch, but do you know there's actually a little piece of monofilament thread in between there? That's another secret, which I'll get into in just a minute. So what you're seeing here, there's my triple stitch back and forth, and then there is my 1 stitch. There actually is thread right here, and then triple stitch there. There is thread in between here. And again, I'll go over that in just a second. It's so fun. But in order to see the thread a little more, what we need to do is increase from our auto tension at 3.4. Now, if you're on a manual machine, and if you have this triple stitch, it's again triple stitch with 1 stitch in between. It's not the triple stretch stitch. It's similar, but again, we need that 1 stitch in between. That is the secret. So triple stitch and 1 stitch in between. We need to increase our tension. So we can turn it up. Typically, it's about an 8 or more. If you have a, again, manual machine, you're going to turn your dial. If you have a dial here for your thread tension, you're going to turn it up. Typically, we're sewing about a 3 or 4. You're going to turn it all the way up at least to an 8. You could turn it up even a little more if need be. I'll just go up to, I'll just go to whatever, 8.4 is fine. So I'll close that. So again, turning up our needle tension. When we're adjusting up here or in my LCD screen, it's the needle tension we're adjusting. And by turning it up, that means we're going to pull that bobbin thread up to the top. This is the thread we're seeing, actually. This is not the needle thread. This is the bobbin thread. And same with this, again, beautiful metallic thread. It's actually 1 strand of metallic thread, but because of that triple stitch, it looks like a thicker, heavier thread because it's gone back and forth 3 times. But so what we're seeing is the bobbin thread. We've turned up the needle tension. So we're pulling up that bobbin thread. And in the needle, the other part of the secret here is that monofilament invisible thread. That monofilament nylon thread is typically what it is. That, again, you can barely see it there. There you can see at least the spool. So that is the secret. We have monofilament thread in our top. My 67 manual does not have a quilt section. Do you know what number that quilt stitch is? I don't know off the top of my head. Becky, you could look back at my Janome Life blog. I used that stitch chart from the 6700 to get that picture of that hand look quilt stitch. And again, it's just look for a stitch, triple stitch, and 1 stitch in between. So again, a monofilament thread in the top. And this is part of that whole recipe is right in between my blue thread, there actually is a stitch. You just can't see it because it's monofilament thread. Now, if you don't, oh, and Liz says it is stitch number 85. Thank you for that. I don't have a 6700 here with me. There is a stitch. It's very hard for you to see, but if you didn't have monofilament thread, I would at least try maybe a white thread would be okay in your needle, because then you really wouldn't see it. But then that white thread would cover this bobbin thread a little bit too. So that's why you really need a really fine 100 weight thread, monofilament thread, to be that stitch in between that you can't see. It works so well. Now, another recipe, another part of the recipe is, I'm just going to quickly, with one touch, this is what I love about the Skyline S7 and all the Skyline machines, one touch needle plate removal. I'm going to take away my 10-gram regular bobbin holder, and I'm going to instead use the low tension blue dot bobbin holder. I used this yesterday as well for our ruler quilting, for our free motion quilting. It's got that little blue dot. It has, again, free motion quilting, hand look quilt stitch for almost every machine that we have. And it has 8 grams of tension. So because we're going to tighten our needle thread, we want to use this low tension blue dot bobbin holder with 8 grams of tension. That's going to not fight the needle tension. It's going to be a little looser. So when we tighten the needle thread, those bobbin threads are going to raise up more easily. So getting that low tension blue dot bobbin holder, again, it's great for the free motion quilting, ruler quilting, and again, this hand look quilt stitch. So we have that blue dot bobbin holder, 8 grams of tension in our bobbin. We have that monofilament thread in our needle, any regular thread in our bobbin, or again, metallic thread, whatever thread you want to show. This is just regular 40 weight embroidery thread, but it again looks so much more substantial. There's one strand of thread, but look how much more substantial my stitching looks. And it's because it's not the thickness of my thread. It's because of this, again, triple stitch back and forth 3 times, then that stitch. So what we're seeing is the bobbin thread is the triple stitch. And then this one stitch we don't really see because it is the invisible thread, the monofilament thread. Now, I always recommend with that very finicky monofilament thread, I turn the speed of my machine down. Seems to work better. The thread doesn't break as much. And then I also love using for any kind of quilting our Janome purple tip size 14 needle for, again, free motion quilting, ruler quilting. Works out really good. It separates the fibers of the fabric a little more, so the bobbin thread and needle threads can intersect more readily. And in this case, yes, we want those bobbin threads especially up at the top. So here you decide whatever you want to do. Do your little test sample. I'm going to make another pin cushion here. So I have just marked my fabric, scored my fabric with my fabulous Hera marker here. Any kind of marker you want to do. I just made a little groove. And again, using this in case I'm using my F foot, my satin stitch foot. It's got a little red marking. So I can see where, oh, I got to move all this, see where the center is. So then my line, I'm just following this red mark on the foot. And this is it. We're just going to go back and forth. I've got my quilt sandwich here of my backing is a little bigger than my batting. And my quilt top is smaller than my batting. So I have this graduated sandwich. So I can go off and on right to the edges of my fabric. And not have any worry, not have any bunching or anything. So this is just, again, so fun to try a new technique on a smaller project. Again, you could do this on a whole quilt if you wanted, but I think, oh boy, that might take a while. Again, I like sewing a little slower with this monofilament thread, because again, I was a little fast, and you see that monofilament thread It's just so fine. Let me just thread this again. Plus my monofilament thread, I must admit, is rather old because I don't use it that much. Thread has a shelf life. Even these, polyester threads, nylon threads, they do have a shelf life. Mine's probably about, a good 25 years old. Some of that monofilament thread, it's more like fishing line. Throw it away, get some new thread. I think I'm probably due for some new thread as well. But again, sewing slower definitely helps. Now here, I'm about to use my needle threader here on my Skyline S7 AE. And sometimes these little monofilament threads, I'm setting up my machine as always. And sometimes these monofilament threads, see, they're just causing me some issue. So now we also want to make sure I'll do needle up, down again, and then I'll get this in here. So it's not my needle threader. I have never had a problem. There we go. I've never had a problem with my needle threader before. It's the monofilament thread. It is sometimes very tricky to work with. And again, depending on the age of your thread, I'm just going to get this set up again, and then we can get going. If you need to, you can use sometimes with these monofilament threads. Whoops, raise the needle bar. There. There we go. Sometimes with these monofilament threads, or more finicky threads as I call them, this is the manual Janome needle threader, and this is very cool. One side holds the needle here, so it can help you put your needle into position, or if you need to switch out your needle, you just put the other one there. But then there's a little wire that comes out, and sometimes this can help thread those finicky threads. Again, just try with your needle threader. I usually have great success with this needle threader. With all my other threads, I have success, no problem. It's just this monofilament thread can sometimes pose an issue. So just be careful. But there we go. Even there, I had that thread break. You'll never see it because of that monofilament thread. Isn't that so cool? So there is technically, again, right where my stiletto is, there is that monofilament thread in between, but you'll never see it. Isn't that amazing? Now on the back side there, you see again that triple stitch and then my bobbin thread, that one thread. It looks really cool. So that is how you can set up your machine if you don't have the sewing applications menu that has that built-in Hand Look Quilt Stitch. Again, you just increase your needle tension, that lengthen your stitch length. In this case, I've maxed it out to 5.0, and then to increase your needle tension. That's what's going to, again, pull that bobbin thread up to the top. And because we're stitching back and forth 3 times, it looks like a heavier thread. And then there, maybe you can just see the sheen of that monofilament thread. So that's how you set up your machine if you don't have sewing applications menu. So with sewing applications menu, it makes it even easier. Again, that's the little t-shirt button. Oh, gee, I again forgot to turn off my phone today. I did that yesterday too. One would think I've never done live before. So when we go into our t-shirt menu, again, what do I want to do? It's the machine asking us, what do you want to do? Well, in this case, on my Skyline S7 AE, I want to do some quilting. What kind of quilting? Again, there is that sculpture category that I talked about. And there, oh, look, you'll see there's a triple stitch. There's one stitch. There's a triple stitch. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've been talking all day. Or again, the sashiko stitch is very similar, where it goes back and forth, and one stitch in between. So depending on your machine, it could be under the sculpture stitch category. But in which case, oh, look, I have a Hand Look Quilt Stitch. Boom. So here is my triple stitch. There isn't that one little stitch drawn in between, but that's the stitch. And then you'll notice some variations. So here is my Hand Look Quilt Stitch. There we go. There's my Hand Look Quilt Stitch, which I just sewed in another method. And then again, you write yourself your little notes. They're all at 5.0. And then there is stitch number 2. That's kind of like this little ziggy-zaggy stitch. It goes off a little bit. It looks a little more, it's not as precise. It's not in a straight line. So it goes off a little bit. So that's more like the kind of hand quilting I would do. It's not so beautiful. This is, again, stitch number 3. It almost looks like chicken scratch. You see a little bit of the stitch there, and then it goes off to the right, and then down here it goes off to the left and off to the right with a little bit of the stitch in between. And then this is hand look number 4 that goes stitching down. You'll see that monofilament thread, and then you see the stitch again coming off to the right, and then the stitch going straight off to the left. You just see the monofilament thread at the top, and then again it goes off to the right and off to the left. I must admit I haven't used these other stitches. I only just focus on that main Hand Look Quilt Stitch one. But it's really good to, again, do all your testing, make yourself your little tests like that, write it all down with the green painter's tape, so you get whatever look you like. Now, in these, in this stitch sample as well, I was trying different threads. This thread, which I wound in the bobbin, it is a thicker thread. It's a 28 or 30 weight thread. It's typically, we'll call it like jeans thread that we would stitch in denim, again, with that kind of goldy, burnt goldy color. This is a thicker thread. My embroidery thread, I was using 40 weight thread. This is, again, a 28 or 30 weight thread. So this is another reason why we use that low tension blue dot bobbin holder, because we have less tension on that bobbin thread. Here is a thicker weight of thread. Will this work with heavier weight thread in the bobbin? Yes, Rhonda, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, we can use heavier thread in the bobbin with that low tension blue dot bobbin holder, again, for free motion quilting, Hand Look Quilt Stitch. And by using that heavier thread here in the bobbin, we can do things like, bobbin work, as it's known. So what bobbin work is, you wind your bobbin with a heavier thread. Again, this looks almost like ribbon floss in a way. It's like heavier thread. We couldn't use this in the needle typically. It's too thick. But bobbin work, we wind the bobbin with that thicker, more decorative thread. And then we're sewing. Oh, geez, sorry. Don't want to see my messy sewing room. We sew like this. Oh, and that monofilament thread just follows everywhere. So again, we've got thicker thread in the bobbin because of that low tension blue dot bobbin holder. Then we do our regular stitching as normal, but backwards, basically. This is the right side of the fabric. I want that decorative thread showing on the right side. In the needle, we just have regular thread. Why we'll use, again, that low tension blue dot bobbin holder. Again, here's some samples of that Hand Look Quilt Stitch where you don't see, in this case, it's tone on tone. Thread matches the fabric. You just see the texture beautifully. You don't see that stitch in between because of that monofilament thread. And then again, another use for that low tension blue dot bobbin holder, free motion quilting, ruler quilting. No eyelashes on the back, no birds nesting, no nothing. It's beautiful. That's what I demoed yesterday. There, this decorative stitch is with the regular bobbin holder. And for most decorative stitches, yes, we have a higher bobbin tension. We want that needle thread to pull to the back side traditionally for most decorative threads. But when we're quilting, we don't want that. That's why that low tension blue dot bobbin holder will prevent that needle thread from coming through to the back side. So just a couple of little things for your recipe. So again, in this case, when I'm on my hand look stitch in my sewing applications, I'm again going to increase my stitch length. I like personally to be really long. You see it more pronounced. And then again, we go into our adjust key. Oh, look, it automatically set to 8.0. It automatically turned my needle thread up higher using that sewing applications menu. So again, that's why I like to use it. It just does some thinking for you. So again, I'll just try to do a little bit more sewing here, but you'll see like that's it. So just basically low tension blue dot bobbin holder, turn up your needle tension at least to an 8, and use a Janome purple tip needle and the monofilament thread in your needle. If you don't have a monofilament thread or invisible thread, as we used to call it, try to get a, like, this is 100 weight. Can you even see it? This is 100 weight thread. Very fine. It's got a color to it. But again, if this was white to match my fabric, I would like barely even see it. So maybe you could do, if you don't have that monofilament thread, maybe you could do with a really fine 100 weight thread. They also have monofilament thread now in a smoke or like a charcoal darker color. So if I had, you know, black fabric and I was then doing my thread in, like some metallic silver, for example, I could use the smoke monofilament thread that would more match my darker fabric. So you really wouldn't see it. You know, depending on the light, you may see a little bit of it, but it really works so well. And it's just such a fun thing. So again, I'm stitching slower now. So again, your needle thread, that finicky monofilament thread, won't break as easily. And again, typically you can use it with your needle threader, no problem. But if you find you are struggling, then this is where, again, the manual Janome needle threader really does help make a difference to help you thread those, again, finicky threads. And then there, cut my thread, and that's it. And again, it is so fun. Look how gorgeous that is. And so consistent. I could never do hand quilting that consistently. So this will be the start of yet another pincushion. I absolutely love making those continental pincushions. They're so cute. So yes, so much fun to be had. So, oh, lovely. Linda is here. Hello. Great to see you. So yes, let me flip around. As always, time goes by so fast. So thank you, everyone. Oh, there we go. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today. It is fabulous to see you all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you all next month in April, which is right around the corner. And be sure to remember to go on janome.com and janome.ca. We just announced yesterday that we're doing a free trial. Janome America and Janome Canada is doing a free trial of Artistic Digitizer software. So for the month of April, it will be free. You can log in now, register now. Your code won't be active until April 1st, but you can register now, get your code, and then that way, April 1st, the code will be active. You'll be ready to go. You've got all month to experiment. Typically in my bobbin, the heaviest thread I've ever used is a 12 weight. That's getting pretty thick. Thread is the lower the number, the thicker the thread. We can even go up to like a, I think there's a 8 weight and even a 6 weight. Like that's really thick. But 12 weight is fine. I've used that, is good. So yes, thank you everyone so much for joining me today. I hope you'll have a wonderful day. Thank you all so much for your compliments. It's wonderful to be with you all. Thank you for sharing the Janome love, and have a great weekend. Bye.